All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakakadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and his unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lost Christ Holy Tongue. Now say Barakathon to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Ma'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson, Barakathon to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Ma'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and his unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach Yahushua. Those are their true names in ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lost Christ Holy Tongue. And I say Barakathon to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Ma'akwaf, once more, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson of the Uproars in the world news updates as of June the 9th, 2026, on this Tuesday afternoon. And this is from Google. I did a Google search. You know, you got those protests heating up over there in Northern Ireland. You had this individual, I believe he's from Sudanese. He had tried to do an attempting attack on a citizen over there in Northern Ireland, and that's why you got protesters there in the uproar, because they got this anti-immigration protest. And this is a prime example that we see in the uproars of the world. It says a brutal stabbing attack in Belfast sparked a call for anti-immigration protests in Northern Ireland. Right, because we've been seeing protests have been increasing over there in the UK and different parts around the world. So that lets you know that's an increasing of uproars of the world. So that's something will continue to increase. You know, just like you got those protesters over there in over there in Kenya. You got protesters and taking place in different parts around the world.
Hello, Moto.
As it says again from CBS News, it says brutal stabbing in Belfast sparked calls for anti-immigration protests in Northern Ireland. And then you had that protest in Kenya, Slovakia, Kenya protests. It says a man reportedly shot in Kenya protests against the U.S. EBOL quarantine century. It said protesters are concerned about the cross-border infection risk and the lack of transparencies from the government from the treatment center. It says, this is from AI Review. It says a deadly protest has erupted in Kenya and against a controversial U.S. plan to build a 50-bed EBOL quarantine facilities for American citizens at the Lakparia Air Base in Kenya. Demonstrators are actively clashing with police who have deployed tear gas and water cannons and live ammunition. Several localized departments define the current demonstrations. Casualties and unrest. Violent crashes have broken out, and at least one protester fatally shot in the head by a police in Nankowski, and multiple other injured in the rest. The cause, citizens are protesting a Trump-era U.S. deal agreed by the President William Ruto, which complains to House Americans exposed to the EBOL. I guess they kind of in protest about that because they building those quarantines first rather than the citizens. I guess that's why they're in the uproar about and protest about. I mean, so it does make sense. It says EBOL in neighboring countries at a medical facility operated by the U.S. personnel. Opponents accused Washington overscoring health risk, a doubly highly contagious patients onto Kenyan soil. A country injunctions the high courts in Nairobi temporarily suspend the establishment of the facilities and barring the entry of potential EBOL infection foreigners while legal challenges proceeded through the President Ruto has vows to press ahead with the plan. It says that if you are a traveler or resident in the region, the U.S. Embassy in Kenya is advised avoiding the area of demonstrations and closely monitoring the local media for further security updates. So we'll bring out that second answers because we're going to be seeing more and more upticks in the uproars of people in the world, and that's what we're seeing. This is the book of Second Ezra's, chapter 9, in verse 3. Therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes, uproars, people will, right, that's the key word, uproars of people will, but that protest take place over in Northern Ireland, and then you got that protest over there in Kenya, and different protests that we've been seeing increasingly, over there in Bolivia, over there in Uganda, over there in Kenya, over there in Congo, and protests over there in Albania, I believe Serbia, and other places around the world that we're seeing the uptick of the uproars of people world. And this is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, and verse.
Hello, Moto.
Second Ezra 15, verse 14. Verse 15. It says, "For the sword of the destruction draweth nigh, and one people should stand up, the father of the swords in hands, right? Citizens clash against one another. Citizens rise against their knees, and citizens rise against their leading power." But these protests and uproars that we're seeing on a daily basis, because these is the beginning of stages of it. Like it says in the book of Matthew 24, verse 8, and that Second Ezra 16, verse 18 to verse 21. This is Second Ezra 15 verse 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men." Why we say sedition among men? A nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, moderate ruler against moderate ruler. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes, and of course, actually stay in power. Right, as we're getting closer and closer to this very insurrection uprising, and then more citizens rise up against their leaders of power. And because you had over there in Bolivia, was that a couple of weeks ago? They was all trying to have a resigning of the president over there in Bolivia, because he was only 6 months into him being president, and then the citizens was kind of the citizens was kind of like dissatisfied how the way he was running the country down there in Bolivia, the newly elected president, because he'd been in there for like 6.5 months, almost close to 7 now. So they called for his resign. And there was another country as well, too. I forgot the name of that country. It was calling for another resign for another president. So that's an indicator that we see the uproars of people world on a daily basis. And this is the book of Luke. Then I'm closed out. Yeah, it's the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, "There shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth disgressive nations will perplexity is born." Right, so we see the uptick of disgressive nations will perplexity is born. So with that, hopefully this sit down lesson was edifying. This sit down lesson, the title of the sit down lesson, the title of the lesson was Uproars of People in the World. Yeah, Uproars of People in the World news updates as of June the 9th, 2026 on this Tuesday afternoon. So hopefully this is edifying through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushua Bahashem, Wakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahushua.
Hello.
Those are their true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashkadash, the Holy Tongue. And I say Barakatham to the elders and apostles, wa Akim, wa Akwa. Till next time, I would say Koresh Sharala in the Bible Ball. Shalom.